The knock at my door that morning was not the polite kind. It was hard, insistent, the kind of knock that announced trouble before a single word was spoken. When I opened it, my brother Daniel stood there, arms folded across his chest, eyes burning with arrogance. His wife, Vanessa, hovered behind him with a look of smug satisfaction. "We need to talk," he said without greeting. I stepped aside reluctantly, letting them into my living room. The walls still held the warmth of my late husband's photographs, the shelves lined with mementos from years of hard work and quiet perseverance. This was my sanctuary, the home I had built piece by piece after life had taken nearly everything else from me. But Daniel's eyes roamed across it with a hunger that chilled me. "You know this house is wasted on you," he said bluntly. "You live here alone, rattling around like some forgotten relic. Vanessa and I, on the other hand, need space. We're planning to expand our family. This home is better suited for us." The words hit like a slap. I blinked, certain I had misheard. "Excuse me." Vanessa smirked, stepping forward. "Daniel is right. It makes sense. You don't need a place this size. You should move somewhere smaller. We'll give you time to pack, of course, but the sooner the better." My heart pounded, disbelief clawing at my chest. This is my home. Bought with my money, maintained with my hands. What gives you the right to demand it? Daniel's lips curled into a sneer. "Blood. That's what gives me the right. We're family and family shares. Or have you forgotten who helped you when you were struggling years ago?" "Don't think I've forgotten that loan." The loan. Years ago, when grief and bills had piled high after my husband's passing, Daniel had lent me a modest sum. I had repaid it in full, with interest, yet he had never let me forget it. "This house isn't yours to take," I said, my voice trembling but firm. "And you have no claim to it." Vanessa tilted her head, her eyes gleaming with malice. "You talk so big, but everyone knows you barely scrape by. This place will crumble in your hands. Daniel can make it shine. We'll renovate, host parties, show people what real success looks like. Don't you want to see it thrive?" Her words cut deep, not because they were true, but because they carried the disdain of someone who had always underestimated me. I straightened, summoning every ounce of resolve. "This home is not for sale. Not to strangers and certainly not to you." Daniel's face hardened, his jaw tight. "You'll regret this," he spat. "You think you're strong, but you're not. And when people find out the truth, they'll side with me. Always have, always will." With that, he stormed out, Vanessa trailing behind with one last contemptuous glance. The door closed and silence pressed in. My chest heaved with fury and fear, but beneath it all, a spark ignited, a spark of something stronger than either. Because what Daniel and Vanessa didn't know was that I was not the fragile widow they imagined. I was something else entirely, something they were about to discover far too late. The days that followed were filled with whispers in the family circle. Cousins called, aunts texted. Daniel had already begun spinning his tale. He claimed I was hoarding wealth, that I had no right to cling to a house that could serve real family needs. He painted himself the hero, me the selfish villain. But while he stirred gossip, I prepared. Quietly, patiently. See, my brother had always measured worth in loudness, in boasting, in flaunting, in domination. But I had learned another way. That real strength lies in silence, in shadows, in truths hidden until the perfect moment. And truth was a weapon I carried well. What Daniel didn't realize was that this house was more than a home. It was a fortress of history, its walls lined not only with memories, but with records, deeds, and a legacy that tied me to far more power than he could ever dream. He thought I was just his grieving, weakened sister. But he had no idea who I really was. And soon, neither would Vanessa. The following week, the tension snapped into something sharper. I was sipping tea by the window when my phone buzzed. An email from the county clerk. Daniel had filed a petition of claim against my property, stating that as my closest male heir, he had the right to assume ownership. I nearly laughed out loud. Heir? I wasn't dead and I wasn't leaving. But beneath my laughter, fury seethed. My own brother had crossed from petty arrogance into outright theft. Later that evening, I received a visit. Not from Daniel, but from Vanessa. She arrived alone, wrapped in her expensive coat, her smile polished but nervous at the edges. "May I come in?" she asked sweetly, as though her last visit hadn't been filled with venom. I let her in, curious. She perched on my sofa, her eyes darting around at the framed photographs, the shelves of books, the quiet dignity of a home well lived in. "You know," she began, "Daniel's only thinking of what's best for everyone. He believes you'd be happier in a smaller place. Less burden, less stress. Don't you want to relax? Enjoy life without all this responsibility?" Her voice dripped with condescension, but beneath it I caught something else: desperation. I set down my teacup. "Vanessa, let's not pretend. You want this house. And you think Daniel will get it for you." Her smile faltered. "It's not like that." "Oh, but it is," I countered. "This house isn't about family or generosity. It's about status. You see these walls, this roof, this garden, and you imagine yourself as queen of it all. Throwing parties, inviting guests, flaunting wealth that isn't yours. Tell me I'm wrong." She didn't answer. Silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. Finally she stood, her mask slipping. "You may have fooled everyone else, but I know you. You're just clinging to scraps. One day, Daniel will get what he deserves, and you'll be left with nothing." I almost pitied her in that moment. Her arrogance was built on a house of cards. But pity has limits. Because while Vanessa spoke of scraps, I held knowledge that could crush their illusions in a single breath. When she left, slamming the door behind her, I went upstairs to the study. From a locked drawer, I pulled out a folder thick with papers. Deeds, contracts, corporate filings, all under my name. The truth was simple but explosive. I wasn't just a widow scraping by. I was the principal shareholder of Hamilton Realty Group, one of the largest private real estate firms in the state. The very firm that Daniel's company was in negotiations with for a desperately needed lease. They had no idea. To them, I was just the sister in the big old house. But in reality, the ink of my signature shaped skylines. I traced a finger along the embossed seal of the deed that proved, beyond question, that this house was purchased outright, free of any claim. Not Daniel's, not Vanessa's, not anyone's. A smile tugged at my lips. It wasn't time to reveal my hand. Not yet. The sweetest victories are not shouted. They are orchestrated. 2 days later, Daniel called a family meeting. It was held at our parents' old home, the place where childhood memories clung like dust. I arrived to find cousins, uncles, and aunts gathered, whispering among themselves. Daniel stood at the front like a self-appointed judge, Vanessa beside him, her chin tilted high. "We all know why we're here," Daniel announced. "Our sister has been clinging to a house far too large for her. It's wasteful. It's selfish. Vanessa and I are ready to put it to proper use, to make it a home worthy of our family's name." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded, others frowned. Daniel turned to me, his voice dripping with false kindness. "We're offering you the chance to step down gracefully. Sell us the house, or better yet, gift it. It's the right thing to do." The audacity left me breathless. Gift it. Before I could speak, Vanessa stepped forward, her smile triumphant. "Think about it, Ellie. You don't want to be remembered as the bitter spinster who hoarded bricks and dust. This way, you'll still be part of the family's success story. Doesn't that sound better?" My cousins watched, some with pity, others with curiosity. They expected me to fold, to bow under the weight of Daniel's voice. But they didn't know me. I rose slowly, letting silence gather. Then I spoke, my words deliberate, each syllable laced with iron. "You stand here, demanding what isn't yours, cloaking greed in the language of family. But let's be clear. This house was never Daniel's. It was never yours, Vanessa. It is mine. Bought with my earnings, maintained by my effort. And no amount of manipulation will change that." Daniel sneered. "Earnings? Don't exaggerate. You've barely kept afloat all these years. Everyone knows it." And there it was, the opening I had waited for. I leaned forward, my gaze steady. "Do they? Or do they only know the story you've spun?" Vanessa frowned, unease flickering in her eyes. I smiled faintly. Perhaps it's time they learned the truth. The room hushed. Even Daniel faltered, confusion darkening his face. Because what I was about to reveal would shatter his illusion of power forever. I let the silence stretch, enjoying the way it pressed down on the room like a storm about to break. Then slowly, I reached into my bag and withdrew a leather-bound folder. "You want to talk about survival, Daniel?" I said evenly. "Let's." I placed the folder on the table and opened it to reveal a stack of neatly arranged documents. Deeds, business contracts, property listings with my name printed in bold at the top. "This is the record of my work. For 20 years, while you were busy chasing half-baked ventures and burning through loans, I was building something real. I founded Hamilton Realty Group. I own not one, not two, but dozens of properties, including the building where your company has been begging for office space." Gasps erupted across the room. My cousins leaned forward, whispering frantically. Vanessa's face drained of color as her eyes flicked over the embossed seals. Daniel's smirk faltered. You're lying. This is some kind of trick." I met his gaze with calm certainty. "No, Daniel. The trick was yours, pretending you held power over me. But the truth? You've been living under my shadow all along. And the very least your company needs to survive is sitting in my files, waiting for my signature. Do you still think I'm clinging to scraps?" The weight of my words landed with brutal clarity. Vanessa's polished exterior cracked as she turned sharply to her husband. "Daniel, you didn't tell me." Her voice trembled, fury and fear mingling in equal measure. "You said she was barely scraping by. You promised this house was practically ours." Daniel stammered. I didn't know. How could I have known she didn't know?" Vanessa's voice sharpened. "Or didn't care. You dragged me into this circus, embarrassed me in front of your whole family. And for what? To beg for something she built with her own hands." Her heels clicked furiously as she stormed away from him, crossing the room to snatch one of the documents from the table. She scanned it, and her shoulders sagged under the undeniable truth. "She's telling the truth," Vanessa whispered, her voice hoarse. "Every word." The murmurs grew into open stares of contempt. My aunts exchanged looks of disapproval. My uncles shook their heads. Daniel, the self-proclaimed rightful heir, was exposed as a fool before everyone. For once in his life, Daniel had nothing to say. I rose from my chair, gathering the papers calmly. "This house," I said, "is not a prize to be fought over. It is my home. And my home is not open to thieves dressed as family. So hear me now. Any further attempt to take what's mine, any whisper of slander or threat, will be met not with silence, but with the full force of my power. And you, Daniel, know better than anyone what that means." I closed the folder with a sharp snap. The sound echoed through the stunned silence. Then, with measured steps, I turned and walked to the door. No shouting, no theatrics. Just quiet, undeniable authority. Behind me, I heard Vanessa's voice, bitter and broken. "You lied to me, Daniel. You lied about everything." His weak protest followed, but it was drowned out by the low murmur of relatives already rewriting the story in their minds. Daniel wasn't the strong one anymore. He was the greedy brother who tried to steal from the sister who built an empire. When I returned home that evening, the house felt different. Lighter somehow. Not because the structure had changed, but because I had. For years, I had swallowed their insults, endured their dismissals, allowed their arrogance to go unchallenged. But now the truth was out. And there's something powerful about truth. It doesn't just silence lies, it rewrites the entire narrative. I stood at the threshold, running my hand along the old wooden banister, and thought about what my late husband used to say. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers in the choices you make. That night, I made my choice. I poured myself a glass of wine, sat by the fire, and drafted a single letter, addressed to Daniel's company. The least they so desperately needed? Declined. With one stroke of a pen, I ensured that my brother's arrogance wouldn't just cost him dignity, but stability. The next morning, I sent it. And with that, the matter was settled. Weeks later, word reached me that Daniel's business was collapsing. Clients pulled away. Investors lost faith. Vanessa, stripped of illusions, had returned to her parents. As for me, I continued building, expanding, thriving. My house stood firm, a symbol not of greed, but of perseverance. And every time I walked its halls, I reminded myself that no one, not even family, had the right to rewrite my story. Because in the end, this wasn't just about a house. It was about dignity reclaimed, about hidden strength revealed at the exact moment it was needed, and about proving once and for all that quiet power is the most unstoppable force of all.